Types of noise in communication. So we have here 6 types of communication barriers. Number 1 is physical noise. Physical noise is the external and unnecessary sound that impedes effective communication, such as environmental noise. Some examples are people who are talking loudly, vehicles, children playing, dogs barking, or music. Physical noise, therefore, is also referred to as environmental noise in the communication process. Alright, so yung tinatawag nating physical noise, ito yung mga ingay na mayroon tayo sa environment natin. That's why it's called environmental noise. For example, mga taong nagsisigawan, nag-uusap, or animal sounds, maaaring yung sa kapitbahay nyo, may maingay na aso, or mga ibon, or manok. So those are communication barriers. For example, you have an online class. Tapos nagre-recitation and then mayroong maingay na aso sa kapitbahay or mismong aso ninyo. So that can be a barrier because the tendency is your teacher won't be able to understand what you're saying. Also, when you're doing your performance task, halimbawa maingay yung manok ng kapitbahay. It's not just that hindi ka maintindihan sa video or mayroong words na maaaring ma-miss. It's also yung focus mo um, pwedeng matuon doon, meaning madidistract ka because of those sounds. Alright, so that is physical noise. Number 2 is semantic noise. Semantic noise is a communication barrier caused by misunderstandings about the meaning of words. It is a result of the message's different meanings between the sender and receiver. For example, sa Katagalugan here in Luzon, ang langgam ay ant. Pero pagdating sa Visayas, kapag sinabi mong langgam, it's actually a dove or kalapate. So it's the same word actually, pero different meanings kasi it depends on the dialect or the language. All right, so that's one example. But most commonly, let's read the second part. For instance, a buyer might not be able to understand the pharmacist if he or she uses technical terms. So that's another semantic noise. If hindi kayo nagkakaintindihan because of that certain knowledge, because of the jargons that you're using. So may semantic noise because it's language, 'di ba? And other than that, it also refers to a grammatical error that causes the receiver to be unable to understand the meaning. So, isang other form of semantic noise is yung pagdating sa grammar. Kasi kapag mayroong mali sa grammar or sa if may lapse doon sa mismong grammar niya, for example, subject-verb agreement, minsan naiiba yung context or kung naiba man yung extent ng isang word, may naiba na word, ay hindi na same yung message na gustong maparating or yung perception ng receiver or ng listener ay maaaring maging iba. So those are different kinds of semantic noise. Yung pagdating ito sa understanding ng message or sa perception ng message. Kumbaga nagkakaroon ng misunderstanding. And that's because of semantic noise. Number 3 is physiological noise. From the word itself, physiological, of course, it's about the human body. Physiological noise interferes with your ability to pay attention to a message. It happens when the sender has problems in health, sight, hearing, or body condition. So for example, you're hungry or tired at the time of communication. So I think this is true. Kapag ikaw ay pagod, minsan hindi ka na makarinig ng maayos or hindi ka makapagsalita ng maayos. Kung gutom ka, yung focus mo nawawala. So uh, it's about your body condition. And also, if you have disabilities, of course, nagiging hadlang din siya, 'di ba? It's also a barrier. And we can say it's actually a physiological noise, 'di ba? So, kapag may kinalaman siya sa pangangatawan mo, sa body condition or sa ability ng iyong katawan or ng senses mo. Next is psychological noise. Psychological noise occurs when the communicator's content, language, and perceived attitudes do not match those of the audience. Having different thoughts while someone is speaking is an example of psychological noise. We can reduce it by using inclusive and objective language and responding to questions and issues raised with calmness and mindfulness. Okay, so let's focus on the first part. Ang sabi dito, yung psychological noise daw ay nangyayari kapag magkaiba kayo ng uh, first hand, if magkaiba kayo ng attitude. Well, sometimes it happens when you were raised from different cultures, 'di ba? Halimbawa, uh, the first communicator is from the Philippines, the second communicator is from America. So, medyo magkaiba yung na-form na attitude because of the culture. And uh, doon nangyayari yung psychological noise dahil hindi nagma-match yung pag-uugali ninyo, medyo hindi kayo nagkakaintindihan on that part. Another example is kung yung focus mo sa pinag-uusapan ay nawawala na because of maybe a daydreaming or yeah. So kapag yung thoughts mo nga ay nalalayo na mismo doon sa pinag-uusapan niya. So that's one example when you're daydreaming. Of course, kapag nagde-daydreaming ka, may iniisip kang malalim, hindi mo napapakinggan ng maayos yung message ng kumakausap sa'yo or ng nagtuturo or nagsasend ng message sa'yo. And then, also part of psychological noise, ang sabi dito, ano yung pwede natin gawin to reduce these kind of noises? So, kailangan daw maging inclusive and objective yung language natin. So, dito papasok yung gender fair language. So, I hope familiar na kayo sa gender fair language. For example, instead of saying flight stewardess, we use flight attendant. Ganun. So that hindi na, kumbaga walang stereotyping. Kapag attendant sa isang aircraft, babae ba dapat? So, di ba hindi naman? So, meron ding lalaki. So, we're using gender fair language. And also, uh, nagiging psychological noise siya when you intimidate the one you're talking with. 'Di ba? For example, iba yung culture kasi sa Pilipinas. Before, parang okay lang kapag sinabi na mataba ka. But now, naiiba na yon. But sa ibang bansa, especially Australia, super rude kapag sinabi mo yon. Kapag na-intimidate mo yung tao, syempre, may irita siya sa'yo, and the tendency is the person won't listen to you. So that is psychological noise. Next is cultural noise. Cultural noise is a communication barrier caused by the wrong interpretation of another person's act or behavior. Particularly, cultural noise is generated by the nonverbal communication of people from various cultural backgrounds. Nonverbal cues do not have the same meaning in every culture and society. Ethnocentrism, prejudices, stereotypes, and discrimination are also examples of cultural noises. All right, so the first one. So a good example here is sa bansang Bulgaria, Egypt, and Greece. Sa kanila, when you say yes, you have to move your head from side to side. Whereas when you say no, kailangan mo mag-nod or tumango. So, baligtad siya sa culture natin as Filipinos and even sa America and the rest of the world, 'di ba? When you say yes, tatango ka. So you will nod your head. When you say no, from side to side. So, ang sabi nga 'di ba, magkakaiba ng non-verbal cues. So that's one good example. Another example sa Japan, yung pagbabaw ay normal sa kanila. Sign of respect, greeting, or thanking a person. Pero sa atin, ang pagbow before, it's just when you're performing. 'Di ba? But sa panahon ngayon, we also bow when we want to give respect to people. 'Di ba? Kapag binabati natin, we also bow. So, na-adapt na natin yon. When it comes to ethnocentrism, prejudices, stereotypes, and discrimination. So these are the judgment of people based on how you look, based on your culture and race, 'di ba? And nagiging hindrance siya pagdating sa pagko-communicate because of their because of their culture ay hindi mo na sila kakausapin or may ilang ka because of stereotypes. So in that manner, nagiging cultural noise siya. And lastly, technical noise. Technical issues with your equipment can stop your receiver from getting the message and comprehending it. Possibilities are the receivers do not have the right equipment, the connectivity is weak, and servers fail. Sounds such as slap of a hand on a table, the slam of a door, or the clap of a hand are all examples of impulse noise. Other examples are of this noise are animal sounds, sirens, and telephone ringing. All right. So technical noise, ito naman ay may kinalaman sa technology. So for example, tayo ay nagmi-meeting and then nawalan ng internet ang isa nating ang teacher nawalan ng internet. So the tendency is madi-disconnect siya and may interrupt yung klase. So masasayang yung oras. Ganon. Or when you're sending a message, for example, mag-email ka and then naubusan ka ng data. You won't be able to send it on time. Especially if it's important, if it's a project, 'di ba? So, nagiging malaking balakid siya. It's a hindrance. And another example daw ay yung impulse noise. Pag sinabi nating impulse, yung mga bigla, like slam of the door. Commonly, nangyayari to sa akin before kasi medyo careless yung isa naming kasama sa bahay, yung brother-in-law ko before. So, ayun. So, isa siyang example ng technical noise. And actually, naririnig talaga siya pagdating sa tinuturuan ko or pagdating sa kausap ko, sa end nila, naririnig siya. So, isa siyang bahagi ng technical noise. So, again, yung noises na ito ay hindi literal na ingay lang. Noise is a term for barrier. And ayun yung mga nagiging hadlang to effectively communicate.